Good morning, friends. Good morning. It is morning for me anyway. It's Tuesday morning, Tuesday, June 15th, and it's 9 o'clock. So good morning, good morning, good morning to you. I'm Brian. I'm the pastor here at Christ United Methodist Church. I love being the pastor here, and I want to thank you for joining me for PB Reads the Bible. And this is day 25, I believe, of our journey through Genesis. I just put that number in 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago into the thing. You think I'd be able to remember it, but I'm pretty sure anyway that it is day 25. Um, but we are on chapter 34. Actually, today we're going to make it through two chapters today, 34 and 35. That's my goal. Anyway, I'm sorry, not 34 and 35, 35 and 36. We're starting with chapter 35 today, and we should be able to get 35 and 36 done. And then when we're done with that video, when we're done with this live video for today, I'll be making my recording for tomorrow. Because tomorrow I have to be in an online meeting starting at 8:30 and can't do two things at once. So I'm going to pre-record it. As far as you know, though, it's going to be live tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Same thing for Friday. Thursday will be live. Is it live or is it Memorex, right? So anyway, that's the plan for today and the next several days of this. Today we'll get through two chapters. Tomorrow is just going to be the one. I see some folks checking in. See a number of how many people are watching, and I see some folks checking in. Thank you for that. You knew I was going to say to ask you to do that anyway. So go ahead and comment, say something in the stream, say hello to me, say hello to each other. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Maureen. Good morning, Marcia from Chelsea, Michigan. It's you're bright and early because that's Central Time, I think. So you're you're checking in with us from the past, perhaps. I guess we'd say you're seeing your future. Good morning, Pat. It is a beautiful morning out there today. It's a beautiful morning out there today. Very low humidity. The sun is nice and strong. Not a lot of wind, so it's gorgeous out there. I could use it warmer, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Oh, Michigan is the same time zone. That's I we learned something new. I guess I just thought it was I thought that was central out that way. Okay, wonderful. Same time zone. Okay. We do pray things are going well for your brother. He's been in our prayers and our hearts, our minds, and we hope that that's continuing. That he's doing well and adjusting. Good morning, Marilyn. Good morning, all. All right, so we're never going to get through two chapters if I don't start, though, right? Not too bad. It's only 9:03, but we are going to do the two chapters today. We're going to do 35 and 36, and then tomorrow's will be the one chapter, 37, as we start the story of Joseph tomorrow. Okay, so here we are with 35. Then God said to Jacob, "Get ready and move to Bethel and settle there. Build an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." Pause. So God has Jacob on the move again. It's interesting. His name keeps going back and forth between Jacob and Israel. The author does that, and sometimes when he says, in both cases, sometimes when he uses the name, whether it's Jacob or Israel, he's referring to the person, and other times he's referring to the entire family, to what will become the nation, especially when he uses the name Israel. Sometimes it's the individual, and sometimes it's the whole kit and caboodle, the whole kit and caboodle. So God has Jacob on the move. The question, of course, is why. Hang on one moment, please. Hopefully that worked. I think that worked. And hopefully you can hear me now? Yes, good. I believe so anyway. Um, so God has Jacob on the move again, and the whole family is going to be going to Bethel. Um, the author has the reason moving because of that's where Jacob first met God when he had his vision with the angels climbing up and down the stairway or ladder, depending on which what your translation is. However, we can also see it as a judicious move on Jacob's part and on God's part for Jacob, um, remembering what just happened in 34, how they killed and or captured the entire community. And Jacob's last words to his sons, "You have made me stink amongst our neighbors, and they're gonna destroy us." So Jacob's on the move. Jacob's on the move, and it could be a situation of both. God kind of saying, "Look, since things are bad here, you should move to Bethel." Remember where we first met. All right. So Jacob told everyone in his household, "Get rid of all your pagan idols, purify yourselves, and put on clean clothing. We are now going to Bethel, where I will build an altar to the God who answered my prayers when I was in distress. He has been with me wherever I have gone." Pause. Now, this is getting interesting. He still isn't referring to God as my God. Every time he's referred to God, Hashem, in the past, it's always been my father's God, the God of Isaac, or the God of Abraham. But he has yet to declare Hashem as his God, his personal God. But he's getting close now with how he just said that. The God who answered my prayers, the God who answered my prayers, and he has been with me wherever I have gone. Continuing, so they gave Jacob all their pagan idols and earrings, and he buried them under the great tree near Shechem. As they set out, a terror from God spread over the people in all the towns of that area. So no one attacked Jacob's family. Pause. You don't really read that literally. I mean, we can read it literally that God, sent this advanced warning. Or we could just say that, sort of the rumor about Jacob and his family and what they had just done kind of spread in front of them, and people were afraid of them and how many there were. As well as the rumor that there's a God that's especially present with these people. That's probably the terror, those kind of two things combined. Eventually, Jacob and his household arrived at Luz, also called Bethel, in Canaan. Jacob built an altar there and named the place El Bethel, which means God of Bethel, because God had appeared to him there when he was fleeing from his brother Esau. Soon after this, Rebekah's old nurse Deborah died. She was buried beneath the oak tree in the valley below Bethel. Ever since, the tree has been called Alan Bakuth, which means oak of weeping. Pause. It's kind of an odd insertion of this detail. We haven't heard of this woman since way, way, way back. Right? We haven't heard of this woman since way, 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 way back. Didn't play, any importance in this story so far. She was mentioned once, and that's it for chapters and chapters and chapters. And now we're hearing about her death again, and that's all it is. All it is saying about her death and where she's buried. So that's probably why it's there, where she's buried, and the fact that this tree has become known as a tree of weeping, or oak of weeping. Why? Right. So the author's kind of answering that question. This is why it's called the Oak of Weeping, and so Deborah's buried there. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't, and it's not a really important thing, but he's just trying to, fill in the cultural blanks. Now that Jacob had returned from Padan Aram, God appeared to him again at Bethel. God blessed him, saying, "Your name is Jacob, but you will not be called Jacob any longer. From now on, your name will be Israel. So God renamed him Israel. Pause. God renamed him Israel a few chapters ago, um, after he wrestled with God all night, right? Um, Perhaps this is to reinforce that name change and that persona change, because a change in name changes signifies a change in a person's character and in how they're supposed to live and all that. And so maybe it didn't take the first time, so to speak, and everyone, including himself, has been referring to him as Jacob. Now God's being a little bit more specific. Your name is Israel now, which means God fights. God fights. So continuing. Then God said, I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. You will become a great nation, even many nations. Kings will be among your descendants. And I will give you the land I once gave to Abraham and Isaac. Yes, I will give it to you and your descendants after you. Then God went up from the place where he had spoken to Jacob. Pause. In Rabbi Rabbi Richard Steinbrink's, Rabbi Dick, in his Zoom lecture on archaeology, he refers to this passage and other passages, because it's not the only one, and so he didn't specify exactly, but that phrase, be fruitful and multiply. And he said how many Jews and different Jewish branches, Jewish sects over the years have wondered about that. Why does God say it basically twice? Be fruitful and multiply. That it's the same word being uh, two different words, but the same meaning. Why is God doing that? And so it became a very literal. They took it very literally, saying you're supposed to have two kids. But then I was wondering afterwards, does that mean two kids per person or two kids per couple? Because if it's two kids per couple, that's not being fruitful and multiplying. That's really just replacing yourself. So it must be two kids per person, in which case you do multiply yourself. But he kind of laughed about it, that was that very literal and very careful understanding of how important each word is to take so literally at one time. And then he said, we don't look at it that way anymore, except for certain sects of Judaism that still do. Mostly the Orthodox take it very literally. The Hasids take it very literally, but most other Jewish sects, Jewish branches of Judaism is a better way of saying that, don't take it so literally, and so they don't, have two kids. They don't take that literally anymore. Continuing, Jacob set up a stone pillar to mark the place where God had spoken to him. Again, an Ebenezer. We included that in the song. That was in the song we sang this past Sunday, right? Here I raise mine Ebenezer, a stone of remembrance. Stone of remembrance. So Jacob set up a stone pillar to mark the place where God had spoken to him. Then he poured wine over it as an offering to God and anointed the pillar with olive oil. And Jacob named the place Bethel, which means house of God, because God had spoken to him there. Leaving Bethel, Jacob and his clan moved on toward Ephrath. But Rachel went into labor while they were still some distance away. Her labor pains were intense. After a very hard delivery, the midwife finally exclaimed, "Don't be afraid, you have another son." Rachel was about to die, but with her last breath, she named the baby Ben-Oni, which means son of my sorrow, because Ben means son of. The baby's father, however, called him Benjamin, which means son of my right hand. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. Jacob set up a stone monument over Rachel's grave, and it can be seen there to this day. Pause just a moment, and I'll share my screen. This is the This is my background, but I figured this way you get to see the whole thing. So this family photo must have been taken after the birth of Benjamin and after the death of Rachel, because she's nowhere to be seen. Of course, none of the mothers are there in this photo. No, cute little caricature drawing of Jacob and his 12 boys right? So now we have the whole clan, the whole family, or at least the ones that are mentioned that we know of. Does Jacob have more kids? We don't know. Of course, we do know he has at least one daughter, right, Dinah. Although they make reference to other daughters, but they don't don't mention them by name. Just Dinah, just Dinah. All right, and I'm going to be showing the other picture soon. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that now. I should have just left that up, because then I could do this. And bring this up. Okay, so we have Jacob with his 4 wives, 2 main wives and 2 primary wives, we might say, and his 2 secondary wives. They are referred to as servants, and they're about to be referred to as concubines, but they were literally secondary wives. All right. And so we've got the 12 sons: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 11 and 12. The last 2 born were Joseph and Benjamin. Okay, so I'm going to leave that up while I'm reading this next passage, because it's important, because I want to. So verse 21, then Jacob, or Israel, and is it the individual or the family, traveled on and camped beyond Migdal Eder. While he was living there, Reuben had intercourse with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Jacob soon heard about it. Pause. So, if you remember from yesterday, I should say, if you watched yesterday's video, if you were part of yesterday's video, I said, Reuben is the eldest son, and so there are certain responsibilities, but he doesn't seem in later years to have the importance that he's supposed to have, like later generations, I guess I should say, hundreds and hundreds of years later, when Judah and the tribe of Judah becomes the more preeminent family and an individual. And why? How does that take place when he's the 4th son? So the first 3 should be more important than he is, quote unquote, culturally and socially speaking. And Reuben should have the primary position. So what happens? And we said yesterday, Simeon and Levi were the 2 most responsible for attacking and destroying the city, the town, the gathering of Shechem. They are the 2 that are responsible for doing all the killing, according to the story, that they killed all the men of the town. And since that was so wrong, and since they had gone against their father's wishes, those 2 lose their luster as being preeminent. And now here we see at least one instance of why Reuben loses his preeminence in the family and in the lineage. He has sex with his father's wife. Yes, she was a quote unquote concubine. She was a secondary wife, but she was still his wife. And the culture, that was not permitted for him to have sex with his father's wife, because she was supposed to be considered basically his mother, or an extra mother, sister wives, or whatever you want to call those kind of situations. But he is violating that principle. It's an act, and not only is it I mean, we can see it as an act against Bilhah, which was wrong. But according, the culture would have seen it as an act against his father. As an act against his father, he is disrespecting his father. He's dishonoring his father. And he's trying to show power over his father by having sex with his father's wife. So that's a big reason why Reuben loses his place in the hierarchy in succeeding generations. Okay, so continuing. These are the names of the 12 sons of Jacob, the sons of Leah, were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant, were Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's servant, were Gad and Asher. These are the names of the ones who were born to Jacob at Padan Aram. Pause. I think Naphtali, although spelled differently than we have it here, spelled with an F, isn't that the name of the new leader in Israel that was just approved by the Knesset? I believe that is correct. Continuing, so Jacob returned to his father Isaac in Mamre, which is near Kiriath Arba, now called Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had both lived as foreigners. Isaac lived for 180 years. Then he breathed his last and died at a ripe old age, joining his ancestors in death. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. End of chapter 35. So this chapter ends, this last part reintroduces or renames each of the sons and reminds everybody, it reminds the reader who's the son of who, or who's the son of whom, and who's the direct brother and who's the half brother, and all that kind of stuff among Jacob's kids. And we, in addition to have seen, we've just read the death of Rachel in childbirth, and now we read of the death of Isaac. And we see Jacob and Esau come together to bury their father. Now, when last we heard of Esau, he had welcomed Jacob back, certainly seemed to be all forgiveness for his brother Jacob, and excuse me, seemed to be all forgiveness for his brother Jacob. But Jacob was unsure, whatever, and decided to go his own way, to stay separated. However, over the casket, over the grave of their father, they come together. They come together to bury him. That's unfortunately it doesn't stay that way, and I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional because I've seen that happen in families, that there's that dysfunction, there's that separation, there's anger for whatever stupid reason, and then they come together over top of their mother or father at their, in their casket, and sometimes it lasts, and they go back to being good friends and siblings, and other times it doesn't. And I've seen both of those situations. Of course, I've also seen situations where it's in the death and that the separation takes place, that they might have been okay and at least friendly and amicable beforehand, but following the death of their loved one, the family sort of falls apart and separates, usually over money. So we're going to move into chapter 36. And I'm really just going to read through chapter 36. There's not a whole lot to highlight. I'll just tell you in advance kind of what it's about. It's because Esau was just mentioned right here at the end of chapter 35. And it sort of segues into telling about Esau, about all of his sons from his wives, and the creation of the multiple tribes that are descendants of Esau. So the author is taking this opportunity with this chapter to explain where all these tribes come from, all these various Arabic peoples come from as descendants of Esau. Descendants of Esau. All right. This is the account of the descendants of Esau, also known as Edom. Esau married two young women from Canaan, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah and granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite. He also married his cousin Basemath, who was the daughter of Ishmael and the sister of Nebaioth. Adah gave birth to a son named Eliphaz for Esau. Basemath gave birth to a son named Reuel. Oholibamah gave birth to sons named Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. All these sons were born to Esau in the land of Canaan. Esau took his wives, his children, and his entire household, along with his livestock and cattle, all the wealth he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and moved away from his brother Jacob. There was not enough land to support them both because of all the livestock and possessions they had acquired. So Esau, also known as Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir. This is the account of Esau's descendants, the Edomites, who lived in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Esau's wife Adah, and Reuel, the son of Esau's wife Basemath. The descendants of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Timnah, the concubine of Esau's son Eliphaz, gave birth to a son named Amalek. These are the descendants of Esau's wife Adah. The descendants of Reuel were Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These are the descendants of Esau's wife Basemath. Esau also had sons through Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah and granddaughter of Zibeon. Their names were Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the descendants of Esau who became the leaders of various clans. The descendants of Esau's oldest son Eliphaz became the leaders of the clans of Teman, Omar, Zepho, Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. These are the clan leaders in the land of Edom who descended from Eliphaz. All these were descendants of Esau's wife Adah. The descendants of Esau's son Reuel became the leaders of the clans of Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These are the clan leaders in the land of Edom who descended from Reuel. All these were descendants of Esau's wife Basemath. The descendants of Esau and his wife Oholibamah became the leaders of the clans of Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the clan leaders who descended from Esau's wife Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These are the clans descended from Esau, also known as Edom, identified by their clan leaders. These are the names of the tribes that descended from Seir the Horite. They lived in the land of Edom: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishon, Ezer, and Dishan. These were the Horite clan leaders, the descendants of Seir, who lived in the land of Edom. The descendants of Lotan were Hori and Himam. Lotan's sister was named Timnah. The descendants of Shobal were Alvan, Mahanaath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. The descendants of Zibeon were Aiah and Anah. This is the Anah who discovered the hot springs in the wilderness while he was grazing his father's donkeys. The descendants of Anah were his son, Dishon, and his daughter, Oholibamah. The descendants of Dishan were Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Karan. The descendants of Azir were Bilhan, Zavan, and Akan. The descendants of Dishon were Uz and Aran. So these were the leaders of the Horite clans: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishon, Ezer, and Dishan. The Horite clans are named after their clan leaders who lived in the land of Seir. These are the kings who ruled in the land of Edom before any king ruled over the Israelites. I'm going to pause right there for just one moment. Um, so we can see just from this phrase, from this verse, that idea: before any king ruled over the Israelites. Some translations change that to before the Israelites ruled over them, or the Israelite king, before the Israelite kings ruled over them, something like that. Yeah, before an Israelite king ruled over them. We can see in that verse that this was obviously written much later. You know, or the whole. So if you look at things literally, and tradition, says that this was written by Moses, it could not have been written by Moses, because this indicates that kings have started to appear in Israel, which doesn't happen until we get into First Samuel, much later, with Saul and David, etc., etc. So the author is obviously from that time period. Anyway, so it wasn't written by Moses. Continuing. Bela, son of Beor, who ruled in Edom from his city of Dinhabah. When Bela died, Jobab, son of Zerah from Basra, became king in his place. When Jobab died, Husham from the land of the Temanites became king in his place. When Husham died, Hadad, son of Bedad, became king in his place and ruled from the city of Avith. He was the one who defeated the Midianites in the land of Moab. When Hadad died, Samlah from the city of Masrekah became king in his place. When Samlah died, Shaul from the city of Rehoboth on the river became king in his place. When Shaul died, Baal Hanan, son of Achor, became king in his place. When Baal Hanan, son of Achor, died, Hadad became king in his place and ruled from the city of Pau. His wife was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred and granddaughter of Mehzahab. These are the names of the leaders of the clans descended from Esau, who lived in the places named for them: Timnah, Alva, Jetheth, Oholibamah, Elah, Pinon, Kenaz, Timon, Mibzar, Magdiel, and Iram. These are the leaders of the clans of Edom, listed according to their settlements in the land they occupied. They all descended from Esau, the ancestor of the Edomites. Pause. End of chapter 36. So, if you don't have a family tree of like on the screen here, you might want to get one, right? If you want to be picky about all of those names. But spoiler alert, they're not going to be on the they're not going to be on the final exam. Spoiler alert, there is no final exam. So don't get too tied up in it. The author must have felt it was important at the time to list all those things, like I said, to explain all those various tribes and to show some connection, but also for future to explain some of the animosity that was probably taking place with some of these communities, in particular the Amalekites. Itchy. Quite a pronunciation challenge. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Pat. Yeah. Some of those names are quite difficult. It's too bad they couldn't all be Bob and Dave and Tim and Tom and stuff like that, right? And Sue and Alice and Jane and simple things, right? Couldn't be too bad they couldn't be simple town names either. That would help. But anyway, I probably butchered half of them. But anyway, So that's it for today, friends. I do pray that you have found your time worthwhile. Do pray that you have learned or relearned something, and that God has spoken to you in some way through what I've said, what we've read together. And as you go about your day today and tomorrow and forever, uh, be on the lookout with your eyes and your ears, both physical and spiritual, first of all, for the beauty all around us, and be beguiled by that beauty in the same way that God is, and observe what God is doing in your life. And when you see it, when you hear it, say, "Thank you, God," and then tell somebody about it, including me. I want to hear about your God moments. Until tomorrow, my friends.